Okay, so with that background, I'm going to move on to my research in particular. So the problem that we were interested in is to model the patient length of stay in the intensive care unit. So this is where you find the sickest patients in the hospital, typically. And yes, at the moment, it's been very topical because a lot of coronavirus patients end up needing to go to the intensive care unit for proper ventilation and monitoring. So why would we want to model the length of stay then? It's a key determinant of hospital costs. So actually, in the US, there was one study that found that 85 to 90% of interpatient variability in the hospital cost of an intensive care patient was just purely down to how long they were actually in the unit for. So clearly, if we can reduce that time, that would the cost should scale with it, given the high correlation. Also, longer stays tend to increase the risk of the patients getting an infection from being in the hospital. So, I mean, I'll just mention coronavirus again as a very obvious example of this. Hospitals have very much become a hotspot for coronavirus, but in more usual times, we'd probably be talking about things like the multi-drug resistant bacteria. So we call that MRSA, but typically those are things that are spread in hospitals, and they're very difficult to treat. And often, if we've got patients in the intensive care unit, they're very vulnerable, and we're not going to want them to get some kind of infection that's very difficult to treat. So efficient bed management could probably mitigate for these costs and also the risk from the infections. And as part of that, we need to know how long the patients are going to remain in the ICU so that we know when the beds are going to become free so we can put the next patient in, and also so that we can plan for the patient to leave the intensive care unit, because there might be things like tests that they need to have, or certain prescriptions or certain support that they need set up in another ward for them to move out of the intensive care unit.